Everyone, just wanted to update you on the NDVI data or imagery that we've been doing for the oak removal experiment at Black Rock Forest. And this time, in the early part of January, when it's record cold weather, Katie came up with me to the roadside and we flew the mission. But the first flight didn't work because we got videos rather than stills. Some switch was on the UAV. So Katie was good enough to come out with me a second day and freeze again. And this time we managed to get the still images, which are necessary for doing the RGB geo referenced image that we can then analyze later and compare with the NDVI. This is a PowerPoint slide, which I'll post on the Google Drive website. And you can see we flew in October, November, and January, early January. So it's kind of close to the late December that we might have done. And as you can see, there is obviously fairly expected changes. But if you go from the top to the bottom, it's very hard to see below the canopy what's going on. And I'm glad we went back and took the stills of the snowy area because there's a lot to see. And this is our only opportunity to see that once it starts to green up again. In fact, I was thinking that because we can see so clearly, if there was a way that somebody could put bright markers that could be seen by the drone at the corners of the plots, then we could skip the GPS referencing of the plot borders and actually do it directly from the sky. But that would mean having to go out and put down a fair number of large, brightly colored basketballs, I suppose, or something that was big enough to be picked up by the drone. But it's fairly high resolution, so we probably could do it. I'll now show you what we found out. Notice that the NDVI, because it scales from 0 to 1, is always going to show red to green. The actual values would, of course, be quite different. Also notice it's very hard to stitch together, as it is here, images in the wintertime because there's not a lot of details. It's like trying to put together a puzzle in which all the pieces are white. And we'll have to work on that as time progresses. But you can see that the plots with the oak removals are, of course, beginning to disappear as one loses the canopy. But there's also a lot of other things, I think, which are worth noting. So let's go to that. And this is the image made up of all of the individual photos stitched together. And this is the model, the 3D model, which is put together by the software. And right away, I think you can see that the road is very clear. You cannot see it when the canopy is there. There's this cluster of evergreens, which I think, I don't know, it could be an issue. It's in there, and there's a bunch of others that are here as well. But also you can't really see where the plots are. And there's some other details which are here, which be interesting to look into. This must be the stream, I assume. And then the nice thing about this is that it's got the three-dimensional structure so that we can actually rotate it. And also because it's clear, we can see the trees that have fallen down. I'll show that to you in the orthomosaic in the next panel. But let's play around with rotating this, and let's see. Here we go. So this shows you the elevation, which is kind of neat to look at. You can see that the road is following this sort of valley here. Here's the clump of evergreens, and there are quite a bit of a topographical relief that we have here. I also notice that this forest is much more dense than what we're seeing here, where the experiment is ongoing. and there are the various residences nearby. So this, this is going to be perhaps an important aspect of the study, what the actual elevational differences are, because it will have an effect on the productivity. You also know that it's almost impossible to reconstruct with three-dimensional images with just a bunch of sticks. So if you zoom in, it's very low quality reconstruction, but still pretty interesting. If we go to the orthomosaic, which is the georeferenced map that'll appear on Google Earth or anywhere else, you'll see that there's a lot more detail to be had. Here are all the trees. There are no leaves. It's sort of beautiful the way they're all spaced with one another. You can actually, perhaps from here, count the number of trees in the plots. The other thing that's interesting is that I assume these are the deer exclosures. You can see there's one deer exclosure there, there's one deer exclosure there. I'm not finding, oh, here's another deer exclosure here. It's pretty interesting to see that. This is the clump of evergreens that are in there, and you can see we have, I think this is another deer exclosure here, perhaps. But if these were here before the experiment, then it's something to take note of. And then, as I said, you can also go in and see the various trees which are down, for example. Here's some trees which have fallen, and that might be interesting to see too. So I'm really glad that Katie was willing to come back to me. I can't tell you how cold it was. Our fingers were falling off. The drone did fly. I was worried that it would be hard to fly. But I initially was not going to bother trying to get the RGB because you can't really analyze it for much. But then I think there's a lot of detail that we can pick up in the wintertime that makes it well worth going out there. Here's a deer exclosure, and again, lots of trees have fallen down here. So that's where we're at now. Got a bunch of months more to go before we get back to where we started, which was in October of 2018. But each flight has been interesting, and I really thank the Black Forest crew for making this possible, especially Bill and all the rest of you that are working with us on this project. So until next month, I hope this is interesting to you folks. So long.